Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I'm Kenneth Emmender, and I got a really interesting interview today. We've really covered what has been going on with the virus, the lockdowns, especially as it pertains to the economy, the shutdowns, the restaurants, the businesses. But we're really going to approach it from a scientific angle today and speak to an expert who's tackling this from the remediation side. The medicinal side. And, we're really going to understand what is going on with COVID, how serious it is, and what the doctors are doing to deal with maybe future waves, mutations, and whatnot. And I want to get that information from our next guest today. We are going to be speaking with Dr. Nadar Pourhassan, CEO of Cytodyn. The company's ticker symbol is CYDY. And this is a company set to submit a trial design to the FDA to compare the effectiveness of leronlimab versus Gilead's remdesivir. So this will be a really interesting conversation today. Dr. Pourhassan, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
If you would, let's lay the foundation from a scientific perspective on what we've seen take place over the last couple months as it pertains to COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely. So our product is a humanized monoclonal antibody called leronlimab. In the past publication, they referred to it as Pro-140. This product has shown great efficacy in HIV, and we finished our trial. We submitted the final application for final approval. As we went forward with our scientists, at that time, Dr. Dennis Berger, ex-professor at OHSU, realized that this product actually has indications in perhaps other indications. And when we order a test on the graft versus host disease, we realized the antibody actually does something very special. As we expanded that and we wanted to check for cancer, we realized that it has indication in cancer. The animal studies were great. FDA immediately gave us phase 2. We are filed for breakthrough designation. We are now going to meet with FDA for breakthrough designation. But there comes COVID-19. After we found out that our product has indication in NASH, in the cancer, in 22 different cancers to be specific, the mechanism of action is such that it binds to a receptor on T cells, which is called CCR5. CCR5 is the antenna on the T cell that gets signaled for the immune cells to go to the site of inflammation or the site of problems. The way this antibody binds to the CCR5, it corrects the immune system in a such way that allows us to have indication not just HIV, but actually in autoimmune diseases, MS, multiple sclerosis. We're filing a phase 2 protocol. But when COVID-19 came, our scientist, Dr. Scott Kelly, told me you should talk to our other scientists, Dr. Bruce Patterson and others, and find out if this has any indication in COVID-19. Because COVID-19 virus, we don't bind to it. Everybody says, well, you don't bind to COVID-19 virus, so why do you think you have indication? And we explained that the people that get COVID-19, they die because of ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. And that is because there is cytokine storm, which is well talked about all over, Washington Post, New York Times. And the cytokine storms, all of these are called Rantis disease, according to Dr. Patterson finding in the last published paper based upon our study in COVID-19, is all this CCR5 that we bind to, it calms down the storm as it corrects the immune system for cancer, as it does help with angiogenesis, with Treg cells, with the macrophages programming. I mean, the list goes on and on, but to just keep it very simple, we immediately told FDA we want to go for that, and FDA said, you're absolutely not going to do that because you need to file for pre-IND. We said, well, we filed for IND before other indication. We go forward very quickly. They said, well, you had animal study. We don't have animal study. Pre-IND, 60 days waiting, then IND, 30 days waiting. There goes 90 days. So as we were waiting, one man called us and he believed in the mechanism of action. He called Dr. Sidham Raju, Harish Sidham Raju, which we call him Hero Doctor at Montefiore. He called me, he says, people are dying everywhere around me, I need your product. I said, well, you believe in the mechanism of action? He said, absolutely, I read all the papers, I want this. I said, well, the only way we can give you is if you call FDA and get an emergency IND. He immediately did that. Doctors at FDA says, nobody has asked for this product. What are you talking about? And he said, well, here's the reason. And he went to the scientific rationale. He got the product, injected 2 patients who were about to die. And his reasoning was, this patient's going to die. There's nothing else for them. And one of them came back alive. I mean, he was sedated and he opened his eyes, extubated, and got off the ventilation. And then he immediately told FDA the results were positive. FDA obviously wanted to jump on that because of the reason he got 9 more emergency INDs. From those 11 patients who were about hours or maybe a few days away from dying, Dr. Sidham Raju were able to save 4 of them. Now, the way we did this 11 patients, we took the blood sample at day 0 of the patient before we gave them leronlimab, day 3, day 7, day 14, 21, and 28 if they live that long. And we did an experiment in the laboratories, and we went with the lab and we asked the lab to do the experiments and tell us what they see. And Dr. Bruce Patterson, who conducted those lab tests, he said that it's amazing. This is a Rantis disease. So we were able to locate that by Dr. Sidham Raju being a hero doctor and stepping up to the plate saying, hey, we want this. And then other doctors at UCLA and other institutes, they start saying that they want to get emergency IND. And then we got the patient in CBS who, her name was Samantha Moti. She said, I was about to die because my husband said that nothing worked. And then they gave her leronlimab and she came back alive, and well, she wasn't dead. So she got out of her terrible situation. And she said that this was a miracle. She called me directly, talked to me, and there was other patient who was an ECMO, same thing, got out of the ECMO, got out of ventilation. And the results of, now we have about 75 emergency IND approved, and we have about 60 of them that we have reported the results, are very impressive. But FDA was very good to us as they were seeing that, yes, there is potential here. They said, we don't go with anecdotal data, which we all know, everybody in the world knows that. They said, you need to do phase 2 and phase 3 perhaps in a randomized fashion. We submitted phase 2 for mild to moderate patients. We submitted a phase 3 for approval for critical patients. FDA again worked with us. We got both trials, and now the trials are going forward. The first one is 75 patients. We have already 58 patients enrolled, and we believe by middle of this month, we're going to stop the trial, whether we get to 75 or not, and let the FDA know the results, because after the failure of remdesivir, and then finally they had a approval for something that is not very effective as they want it to be, but it's effective nonetheless, but very small amount. We believe we can blow the competition out of the water with our product. Now, that's what we believe. Again, we have to prove that. Everybody believes that. We believe it because of the 70 patients that we gave emergency IND and we saw the results. But that results, again, to FDA means nothing, just rightfully so. They need to see the data, and we're excited to get the data out soon.
Doctor, that's incredible. So you're helping people that are in critical condition. I think that's really important. So tell us a little bit more about, at what point, at what step of the process is this medicine designed to be implemented and used? Is it, you mentioned people that have acute or, very mild symptoms. Is it somebody who, can someone just take it as a precaution like Donald Trump was doing with hydrochloroquine?
Yeah, so we have no proof that this product works in any conditions at this time based upon randomized clinical trial. All the data is anecdotal. So there are different categories of patients in COVID-19 according to FDA. The first category is mild to moderate. Now, those patients, when they go to a hospital, that means they're having high fever, they're having problems. At the hospital, they give them oxygen, they give them worst case scenario, they give them a ventilator. but before that they can give them remdesivir. They could have before given hydroxychloroquine, but that's all they have. So that's one category. So we have a trial for that population, mild to moderate population. The second population is critical population. There are three categories. One is severe in the middle of those two, and the worst one is critical. Critical is intubated patients. They are patients who have very small chance of survival. That trial we have is a 390 patient trial, and we are going to do most likely an interim analysis after 50. If we show that the placebo, there was few death, God forbid, and in the other arm, there was no death, perhaps, that's a basis for approval. So we are not prevention, but one thing that's very, very important for everybody to know is remdesivir is an antiviral drug, which means it goes attacks the virus itself. So antiviral means it goes and kills the virus. And it shows no antiviral activity, but it has some good potential where the patients were able to get out 11 days versus placebo arm of 15 days. That's a benefit. That's clinical outcome that can be used to approve the drug, and that's great. Now, with our product, we had the laboratory that we have, Dr. Bruce Patterson, actually check for the COVID-19 virus. And we saw that the way we fixed the immune system, correct the immune system, the viral load went down. All the patients, all those 11 patients that were in the month of fear with Dr. Sidham Raju. So now we have clinical evidence, or I should say immunological evidence, data that shows those 11 patients all got immunological benefit, even though they didn't survive, a lot of them, because they were too far gone. They had one of them had heart transplant. The other ones had kidney transplant. So it was way too late for any one product to be able to save them. But we were nonetheless saved 4 out of 10 or 4 out of 11, I should say. And the people who didn't make it, they were taken out of ventilator because they were not enough ventilator in the hospital. There was other reason why they stopped that. And we explained that in our presentation. So Dr. Sidham Raju already published the paper in New England Journal of Medicine for the patients who were kidney failure. 6 of them were the patients who got leronlimab. And Dr. Bruce Patterson and other authors with Dr. Sidham Raju himself together, they have got a paper which Dr. Bruce Patterson leads the lead author on that. And that one shows that the RANTES were the major problem. So they call this problem RANTES disease. That's what Dr. Bruce Patterson calls it. And we have shown data in that paper. So we are publishing 2 more papers next week. We are submitting for publication in New England Journal of Medicine based upon very strong results. So we believe, anecdotal or not, saving lives are very important. And we are very fortunate to have testimony of patients saying that, this is what happened to them.
Well, I feel very fortunate to be learning and interviewing you. And my goodness, maybe on the cutting edge of some pretty game-changing research. Doctor, maybe speak to the seriousness of the coronavirus, maybe second waves, what you expect to come down the line. And obviously, if this is something for the immune system, it doesn't really matter what this virus does. It should mitigate that. And, I guess I want to ask you too, what's it going to take for America, the world, to get back to ball games and concerts? I mean, it really seems like this is something that we need to have the confidence to say, okay, we have some sort of mitigation of this virus that came around that we don't know what to do with, right? And so I'll pass it back to you.
No, absolutely. In regards to the second wave and analysis of coronavirus, I'm not the expert in that field, but I also listen to the news and the experts talking. If the second wave comes, then we need to have a way to perhaps be able to reduce the number of deaths. Now, our product has shown in an anecdotal fashion that we have been able to effectively stop this death process for some patients. Now, what does that mean in the randomized trial? If the randomized trial hits its primary endpoint and we get approval, that means the whole world can open up again. That means the whole United States can go back to work if we can stop the death rate. Because the only problem with this disease is the death rate, right? The morbidity and mortality rate. If we reduce that by significant amount, then the panic and the anxiety around this disease will go away and everybody can get back to work. Now, we don't have that data that I'm talking about, that we need to get that data. So I want to make sure I'm giving correct information. I'm not claiming here that we have the data and we're going to do that. But I'm saying if the data comes as we have hoped for and as we have seen in the immunological markers that we check in the laboratory, this would be a turning around of the history.
Yeah, well, that's it goes to show where we are in the process and approval and the stage of this. I mean, we're watching this unfold in real time. So I'll follow up with this, you know, and I guess this would give us some perspective as to managing our expectations. But what is considered successful when it comes to the spectrum of the efficacy of drugs in the pharmaceutical companies? You know, maybe you can talk to how successful remdesivir was, and you know maybe where you guys are aiming to be in this efficacy category.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So when you go to FDA and you want to get approval for any product, you're going to tell them, here, I'll take a patient that's in the stage A, let's just say A, stage A, and my product will take this patient to stage B or better. Now that's called primary endpoint. So you have to predict that. And when your prediction comes true, that means you had your primary endpoint. FDA looks at that as a very positive sign. FDA also will say, now that's just efficacy. If the safety is not there, you're going to save maybe 10% and then kill 90%. So they have to be very, very careful. And that's why people don't understand about FDA. They think that what's wrong with them, they saved a couple of lives, just give it to everybody. Well, hydroxychloroquine proved that this is not the case, because you could also damage people. So FDA is being very cautious not to let many products come out there and hurt the people more than it helps them. So with that said, the FDA wants a longer trial with a larger number of patients to establish safety. Once you get your safety established and your efficacy, then you finalize your final application. But now there is a last problem. The problem is, how well can you manufacture this? FDA has to make sure that the process of manufacturing is very good and you can duplicate the safe product that you prove it's safe. Now you have to be able to duplicate that exact specification so there is no malfunction in your process of manufacturing, and then you start getting the product manufactured with some kind of defect that hurts people. So those three processes has to be in: the safety, the efficacy, and the manufacturing. The good thing about our product is we were developing this product for HIV. We have 900 patient safety record that is very, very spectacular, those 900 patients. FDA obviously felt good about it to give us phase 2 in every indication that we asked for, that we had the animal studies for. Then the next thing, for most of the, like right now, the vaccine, they have to prove it they're safe. We have the safety. The next thing is efficacy. Our efficacy has to be there. But because we were developing this product for the last 6 years for HIV, we just submitted 2 weeks ago or so our final application for final approval for HIV. So our manufacturing is already being checked by FDA. So the manufacturing is going to be taken care of. Then we're talking about the safety is taken care of. So the efficacy is the only one. And the last 4.5 months, we've been going back and forth with FDA. They guide us and give us instruction of what we need to turn in, how we need to turn it in. We got that format down and we submitted it. Now you look at the product that could get approval for HIV within the, maybe, you never know, 6 months or less than that. But if the COVID-19 comes in, I believe FDA will have all the elements that they need to make a decision on the manufacturing portion of it, and safety, and hopefully the efficacy of COVID-19.
So 6 months, we might get some sort of approval. What is the roadmap from there to getting into the hands of the people?
So 6 months is for HIV. COVID-19, as we saw when remdesivir hit their primary endpoint and barely hit it, they are able to get emergency approval very quickly. So we are hoping that we hit our primary endpoint by the end of this month. We have not hit our primary endpoint yet. I just want to make sure, again, I'm very clear. We have to unblind and see. Once we do that, then getting it approved is very important. 2-3 weeks, perhaps FDA can give us some guidance. But with that, you need to have a distributor. Now, distributors usually have to do a lot of work on launching the product. That's a year process, but we don't need that because everybody needs the product is very well known. This is not a product you have to go advertise. Everybody needs it, especially you can save their lives. So that's going to be a distributing agreement that we have to make. And we are about to sign our agreement later today or tomorrow, a non-binding term sheet with a very solid company that have approached us already. And we have over 8 or 9 discussions, including one big pharma discussions that we believe could be very significant to our company's future.
Very exciting. Dr. Nadar Pourhassan, CEO of Cytodyn. Doctor, if people want to learn more about you, the company, and kind of stay up to date on what is going on with the company in terms of developments, where would they go and what can they expect to find?
So they have to go to our website, which is www.cytodyn.com. The name of the company is CYTODYN, cytodyn.com. And the ticker symbol for our company, which has been public for maybe 20 years now, I believe, and that's CYDY.
Doctor, thank you so much for coming on Crush the Street with me today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.